This video is brought to you by FSP and their CMT 500 series cases. The CMT 510 offers a squared off look, 3 tempered glass panels, 4 RGB fans, and enough room inside for custom water cooling. The CMT 520 offers a more angular shape, front and side glass panels, 4 included RGB fans, and the best part is they're both priced at just under $100. See links in the description or visit fsplifestyle.com for more details.
Timmy Joe reviews anything.
Reviewing computer parts on YouTube.
Woo! Gotta be pumped on that, right, Will? Computer parts! Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Meme review! What's up? My name's Timmy Joe, making videos about computers on the internet. Getting back on that old holiday horse. Up here, I hope you had a good one. And we're back with a humdinger of a dilly of a pickle. We've got some video cards, well, mainly this video card to look at. We've got a viewer sent this in, and I gotta say, I can't wait to, well, I've been diving into it a bit, making sure it's working and stuff, but, Nvidia 7950 GX2. This is a dual card solution, quite literally, baked into one single card, taking up 2 slots, from around 2006, and it's a real weird one. And it came at a really weird time, right before Nvidia was going to destroy the world with the 8800 GTX, and kind of change the face of things. And it was kind of an answer to this, which is the ATI X1900 XTX, which sort of was faster than like a lot of the Nvidia stuff coming out at the time, like the 7900G and GTX, which were single card versions of this. And I think Nvidia didn't want any, you can't stand this card up by itself. Nvidia didn't want any question as to who was making the fastest graphics card out there. So they put this little guy together with the SLI to really make sure it was happening. And then like 6 months later, they released the 8800 GTX, which blew anything from AMD, or ATI I should say, out of the water at the time, and they just simply couldn't compete. So I have a lovely viewer donated this, and it was in response to, I had a Dell come through here, like this big giant Dell red beast, and it originally had one of these in it, and then I got it. Someone had replaced the video card at one point, and I've actually given that Dell to a friend because I wasn't sure I was ever going to get one of these, and I just had a lot, like way too many computers sitting around here. So I might get it back at some point and put this in there, or I might just give it to him to put in there once we're done with it. But I will be testing this today on an AMD Phenom 2 quad-core processor with 4 gigs of DDR2 RAM. This would be more than enough processor to, you know, put this thing through its paces. But I wanted to take it apart. See, I have it here. Isn't it weird? It's got 2 cards sandwiched into one, and I want to take it apart, so we're going to take it apart. And I got a new tool for Christmas, a new screwdriver, so I stopped using my drill all the time, or I had another one of these and it used AA batteries. So I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. We're going to go ahead and take the 2 cards off of each other and put some new thermal paste on this thing, because my goodness, it gets hot. But I've tested it and it works. Has a single 6-pin, which is it's just a really weird card, because I'm hoping it's as simple as what. Well, I guess it's not going to be, because I'll have to take those off. Yeah, we're almost there. Can I use something like this? Just gonna ruin my side cutters here. Oh, there we go. I got it going. Boop, boop. So the DVIs are on the second card, so we'll have to undo those in order to take the cards apart. So yeah, I'll just stuff like this I love getting from viewers. He actually gave me, you know, the RAM I'm using on this, just a couple of things here and there to help the channel along. Some DDR2 memory, a nice G-Skill kit, and some other things and stuff. Some candy he gave me in the box. That was pretty cool. It came all the way from Europe. So here we go. We got this thing undone. I think that's all we need. So let's go ahead and So we basically have the exact same cooler. And is this card ever clean? It's ridiculous. And it's interesting because the 7900 and some other versions of this card it looks so weird without a PCI bracket on it. It's super weird. But instead of an SLI connection, it just has this little card that connects the two. Isn't that interesting? That's super weird. So, yeah, he sent me this over, and it's weird because just why would you sandwich cards together like this? And the cooling solution on it isn't that great, but apparently there was actually a 7900 GX2 before this, and it was plagued with issues with overheating and just it wasn't engineered very well, and it had two 6-pin connectors. And then we'll get into here before we go any further with this, because I think I'm just going to do a time lapse on doing the rest of that. But if we see here, there's quad SLI in action. This was a big deal back in the day. This card was like $600 back in the day, but not much information on Nvidia's site, so I'm not going to be going there. Basically, it's got a 512-bit memory bus compared to the 7950 GT, which was the last card to come out in this series, I believe. And it's just basically one of these cards, and it just basically doubles everything. Each of these cards has 512 megabytes of GDDR3 RAM, and they say it has a gig, but really it's got 512 per card or whatever, per card. So if you see when these all came out, June 5th, 2006 is when this card released. But if we look a little bit above it, we see the 7900 GX2 launched in March. So it's like it was just a quick revamp. Like between the two, it doesn't really make sense. It's within months of each other. I think it was just due to production problems or a design problem with the 7900. So they changed things around. They actually made this card much smaller. And then if we see here, June 5th, 2006, we roll down. The 8800 GTX came out on November 8th, 2006. So this thing was the fastest video card on the planet for all of 3-4 months before Nvidia just bested it, like blew it out of the water with a proper video card. The 7000 series was when Nvidia was still playing, ball with ATI. And then when the 8000 series came out, ATI had like nothing to go against them. So it's interesting stuff. But, I see in an attack review of this, I went through it, and they were pretty impressed with it because, it's a feat of engineering. But if we go to some of the performance details, it's actually getting bested by ATI, the X1900 XT in certain situations, like in Battlefield 2 performance. And then other games, when the scaling is there, I think Fear comes out way on top. So it comes down to SLI support and whether or not it was working. And this is very early days of SLI. So you might have bought a $600 graphics card and it just didn't work in your favorite game to give you that extra performance, and you're really using a 7900. And then there was some question as to whether it was worth it to buy this or SLI 27900s, and it kind of makes more sense to buy this thing because you didn't need an SLI motherboard. It was just, you could plug and play this thing, and the scaling was actually there. This was actually faster than 27900 XTs at the time, something like that. So, 7900 GTXs. So this is what the 7900 GTX looked like, and it was a lot of the coolers on them. I bring this up because it's weird how they were still putting these dinky coolers on a very high-end card like this when its brother with one GPU had an actual, by today's standards, a fairly decent cooler on it. And then this is the 7900, and it's way bigger. And I guess it was really a Quadro card that they had brought to the mainstream and realized it wasn't going to work. But it's way longer, and it's kind of weird looking. And I guess there was problems with connecting the 6 pins on it and stuff like that, so they revamped the card for this. And then we see the GeForce 7950 versus SLI on a single card. I just brought this Tom's Hardware article up here because it actually says Nvidia has stated clearly there is no major difference between the GeForce 7900 GX2 and the 7950 GX2. It's just a kind of revamp on making it a little more user-friendly. And then this kind of goes over the 7950 GX2 versus the ATI Radeon 1950 XTX, which is this guy's like even more expensive brother and like kind of a replacement for this guy, and how they were basically priced pretty similarly, and it just kind of gives a roundup of the best cards of 2006, which kind of kills me. But I don't see that the 8800 must have just been announced but not released yet. So I don't know. It doesn't show up on that list. But 70, yeah. So I don't know. Just a weird time where Nvidia was actually not the king. Probably one of the last times actually. You could say the 7970. Gigahertz edition did beat out in Nvidia, but it's like few and far between where the times that Nvidia wasn't on top. And so I'm gonna go ahead and take these guys totally apart. That way we can make sure that we get the thermal paste replaced on them. And these dinky coolers I don't think are doing all that great a job, but some old thermal paste on them, it's not going to hurt to go ahead and get them swapped out. But this is weird because it's a card with no PCIe bracket or coming out of the bottom. And then this one's weird because it's a video card with a PCIe card to install on your motherboard with it's like it's a mining card. It's got no it's got no outputs. It's kind of weird. So I'll go ahead and get these fixed up, and then we're going to play some video games with them and have a little bit of fun. Go, Timmy! We're back. We did some benchmarks. We did some things. We made her happen. And that was a fun time. It was a fun time. It was a little bit hard to get rolling. But once I got rolling, I got some games, a little mixture of like way beyond this thing's capabilities that I actually ran Tomb Raider, which was interesting. And, some of the stuff at the time, that would have been really well suited for it. But I got to say, can this thing play Crysis? This thing came out about 8 months before Crysis launched. Imagine you bought the best GPU for $600 from Nvidia at the time, and then Crysis comes out and you have to put it on 800 by 600 or whatever at low settings to get it to play it properly. Like, it kind of played it at 720p at like a cinematic 24 frames a second, but lots of micro stuttering and stuff like that. It's an old SLI card. Like, what are you thinking buying this back in the day? And then, of course, within 6 months, the 8800 GTX was out, and that's just a whole other level of card. But interesting that it played Tomb Raider, played Dirt, sorta, some lower resolutions. Fear, some games from the time, of course, plays Half-Life really, really well. And it's just fun to break out old hardware like this, have you guys donate some stuff and take a deep dive into like what this thing's all about for the time. And just, it's so eclectic, it's so interesting and weird that there's two cards sandwiched together, not two GPUs on one single card, two actual video cards jammed together to get you some performance right before they were going to launch the 8800 GTX. And then you're like, holy jeez. I would be pretty sad if that's, but you know, it's a turning point, right? There's always a turning point in technology. So, yeah, I was actually even able to overclock this a little bit, about 60 megahertz, which doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that the core frequency on this is 500 megahertz. A little bit on the memory as well, and it ran like under 90 degrees, and one core was a lot hotter than the other, obviously, because it's sandwiched in there, but nothing too crazy. And then, yeah, it's just a fun time to look at old stuff like this. So, do the benchmarks really matter? Are you going to be playing these, find one of these things and playing, maybe if you're a weirdo like me, an old retro guy like me, but not going to come up in everyday life that you find one of these and you're going to be plopping it into the system. And you probably want to find just a little bit later a video card in the 8000 or 9000 series and get like way more performance. There'd be way more volume out there to kind of look around for like 9600s and stuff like that. There's a plethora of old graphics cards. To put this in a retro system would be kind of a silly thing at this point because you'd be really limited in the games you could play. As we saw there, pretty much games before 2007 and anything after that, especially Crisis and stuff, like, doesn't look so good. But I want to thank Philip for sending me this. Oh my god, man, can't even explain. So fun. We'll have to get this in the Dell XPS at some point. That's just the guy I gave the system to. He lives like an hour away from me, and it wasn't going to work out timeline-wise. And I wanted to look at this thing because just the cleanest example of one of these, too. Like, the thermal paste even on it wasn't so bad. It wasn't even crunchy. It's like this thing was barely used, or it was really well cleaned before it was given to me, because there was barely any dust in it or anything. So, gotta thank you very, very much. So, this has been a mini retro review of the Nvidia 7950 GX2, a weird piece of Nvidia history, SLI history, and something that was just circumvented by Nvidia 6 months later with the launch of a pioneering graphics card, the 8800 GTX. But we're here and we had a look at it, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter. I'm gearing up for CES. I'm going to CES because of you guys, you little jerks. And jerks, that's not nice. You guys sending me CES, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm kind of nervous. I'm going to go figure it out, make it happen, go to Vegas, look at some cool stuff. And if you guys want to see anything specific, while I'm in Vegas and CES, let me know on Instagram and Twitter, all those good stuffs. But for today, we got her done. We got a double video card review done. And I'm going to edit the rest of this and get the heck out of here. So I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much for watching. At Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter. And I have a Patreon as well. Always helps out to throw me a few bucks. Or if you have something cool like this, email me. I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you very much.